The lone witness. The lights were too bright. Zekthari's eyes hurt as consciousness slowly returned. The smell was wrong too. Sterile and clean. Nothing like the smoke and death that filled the last moments before everything went dark. A soft beeping sound echoed nearby, steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. Zekthari tried to sit up, but pain shot through their scaled chest. Bandages covered most of their reptilian body, and medical tubes snaked into their arms. This was not a hegemony medical bay. The equipment looked different, older, but somehow more advanced at the same time. "Easy there, survivor." A voice spoke in perfect hegemony standard. Zekthari turned to see a tall, pale creature with strange hair covering its head. The being wore white clothing and had small, forward-facing eyes. "You have been unconscious for 6 days. I am Dr. Chen, and this is Neutral Station Gamma 7. A human." Zekthari's hearts began racing. The memories came flooding back like a broken dam. The battle, the screaming, the impossible sight of human ships doing things no sane pilot would attempt. "The fleet," Zekthari whispered, their voice rough and damaged. "My fleet. What happened to my fleet?" Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in those strange eyes. "You are the only survivor we found. Your escape pod was badly damaged when our rescue teams picked you up. Only survivor." The words hit like a physical blow. 200 ships, 50,000 of the Coalition's finest warriors. Gone. All gone except for one intelligence officer who should have died with the rest. "That's impossible," Zekthari said, struggling to make sense of it. "We had overwhelming force. The humans only had 12 ships. 12 tiny ships against the might of the Hegemony Coalition. It should have been a simple conquest." Dr. Chen said nothing but made notes on a datapad. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Over the next 3 days, Zekthari gave their initial report to the Coalition representatives who arrived at the neutral station. The debriefing room was small and gray, with a simple table and chairs. Across from Zekthari sat Commander Vextar, a fellow reptilian with the cold eyes of someone who had seen many battles. "Let me understand this correctly," Commander Vextar said, reviewing the datapad in front of him. "You claim that 12 primitive human vessels destroyed our entire expeditionary force?" "Yes, sir. I know how it sounds, but it sounds like trauma-induced delusion," Vextar interrupted. "Our intelligence reports clearly indicate that humans are a recent spacefaring species. They have been in space for less than 2 centuries. Their technology is crude compared to ours. Their largest ships are barely the size of our escort frigates." Zekthari's claws clicked against the metal table. "Sir, with respect, I know what I saw. The humans fought like nothing we have ever encountered. They used tactics that made no sense. They sacrificed their own ships without hesitation. They turned their vessels into weapons in ways that should be impossible. Impossible tactics from an impossible victory," Vextar said with a dismissive wave. "The medical team here believes you suffered severe head trauma during the battle. Your memories are likely compromised." "My memories are intact," Zekthari snapped, then immediately regretted the outburst. "Commander, please. You must listen. The humans are not what we thought they were. They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are something else entirely." Vextar stood up, his expression stern. "Intelligence Officer Zekthari, you will undergo full psychological evaluation upon your return to Coalition space. Until then, you will not speak of these delusions to anyone else. The official report will state that the expeditionary force was lost due to unknown spatial phenomena. Do I make myself clear?" "But sir, do I make myself clear?" Zekthari's shoulders sagged in defeat. "Yes, sir. Crystal clear." After Vextar left, Zekthari sat alone in the debriefing room staring at the blank walls. The commander was wrong. The Coalition High Command was wrong. Everyone was wrong about the humans, and that mistake was going to cost them everything. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway carrying a steaming cup of some earth beverage. "Rough meeting?" "They think I'm crazy," Zekthari said. "They think the trauma broke my mind. And what do you think?" Zekthari looked up at the human doctor. There was something unsettling about those forward-facing eyes, the way they focused with such intensity. Predator eyes, Zekthari realized, not the eyes of prey but of a hunter. "I think your species is the most dangerous thing the galaxy has ever seen," Zekthari said quietly, "and I think my people have no idea what they are about to face." Dr. Chen set the cup down on the table. Steam rose from the dark liquid inside. "Would you like to tell me what really happened out there?" Not for any official report, just between us. Sekathari stared at the human for a long moment. There was something in that offer. Something that suggested this conversation would be very different from the official debriefing. You want to know what happened? Sekathari asked. You want to know why one intelligence officer survived when 50,000 soldiers did not? I do. Because your people wanted me to survive. Because someone needed to carry the message back. Because you wanted the coalition to know exactly what kind of enemy they had made. Sekathari picked up the cup with shaking claws. The question is, Dr. Chen, why do you want to hear this story? What does a human doctor gain from listening to the terrified ramblings of the sole survivor? Dr. Chen smiled, and for the first time, Sekathari saw something genuinely frightening in that expression. It was not cruel or evil. It was patient. It was the smile of a predator who knew that its prey was already caught, even if the prey did not realize it yet. Maybe, Dr. Chen said softly, I want to know if the message was delivered correctly. The cup slipped from Sekathari's claws and shattered on the floor, splashing hot liquid across the metal surface. In that moment, sitting in a neutral station, speaking with a human doctor who smiled like death itself, Sekathari finally understood the true scope of what had happened at Kepler 442. It had not been a battle at all. It had been a demonstration. A carefully planned, precisely executed demonstration designed to send a very specific message to the Hegemony Coalition. And Sekathari was not a survivor. Sekathari was a messenger. The realization settled over them like a cold shroud as Dr. Chen quietly cleaned up the broken cup. Outside the small window, stars shone in the darkness of space, and somewhere among them, humanity was preparing for war. The coalition had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked what they thought was a weak, primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something that should have been left alone. Something that understood war in ways the galaxy had never imagined. And now, sitting in this sterile room with a human who smiled like a predator, Sekathari knew that the message would be delivered exactly as intended. The humans were coming. The debriefing room felt smaller the next day. Sekathari sat across from a new coalition officer. This one a tall, blue-skinned Veltar with cybernetic implants covering half of their skull. Admiral Kreenox was known throughout the coalition as a tactical genius, someone who had never lost a battle in 40 years of service. I have reviewed your preliminary report, Admiral Kreenox said, their mechanical eye whirring as it focused on Sekathari. The details are unusual. I would like you to walk through the battle sequence again step by step. Sekathari closed their eyes, trying to push away the memories that still caused nightmares. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly where our scouts predicted they would. 12 ships total. Their largest vessel was maybe 1/10 the size of our flagship. Standard interception formation? Yes, sir. We deployed in the Kethmaran Wall. Overlapping fields of fire, no gaps for smaller ships to exploit. It should have been a textbook engagement. Sekathari paused, their claws unconsciously scratching at the table surface. But the humans did not behave like any enemy we had encountered before. Admiral Kreenox leaned forward, his mechanical eye recording every word. Explain. They charged directly at our center formation. No attempt at flanking maneuvers. No probing attacks to test our defenses. Just a straight-line assault at maximum velocity. The memories were clear now, too clear. Our weapons officers reported that the human ships were accelerating beyond what their hulls should have been able to withstand. Elaborate. The G-forces should have killed their crews, Admiral. Our computers calculated that the acceleration rates would turn any biological being into liquid. But the ships kept coming, kept accelerating, kept changing direction in ways that violated basic physics. Admiral Kreenox made a note on his data pad. Perhaps they use artificial gravity compensation systems superior to ours. Sekathari shook their head. No, sir. That is what we thought initially. But when our sensors got closer readings, they trailed off, remembering the impossible data that had scrolled across their screens. What did your sensors detect? Life signs, Admiral. Normal biological life signs, heart rates, brain activity, all within acceptable ranges despite the fact that they should have been dead from the acceleration alone. It was as if the human crews were completely unaffected by forces that would have crushed us. The Admiral's organic eye narrowed. You are suggesting that humans have some form of biological adaptation that allows them to survive extreme G-forces? I am suggesting that we do not understand human biology at all. Zekthari replied, because what happened next was even more impossible. Continue. Zekthari stood up and walked to the small window staring out at the stars. When the human ships reached optimal weapons range, they did not slow down. They did not assume attack formations. They did not follow any tactical doctrine in our databases. What did they do? They split up. Each ship chose a different vector, diving and weaving through our formation like they were dancing. Our weapons officers could not track them. Every time we locked onto a target, it would change direction so suddenly that our targeting computers thought the sensors were malfunctioning. Admiral Kreenox reviewed his notes. Evasive maneuvers are standard practice. Not like this. Zekthari turned back to face the Admiral. Sir, I have fought in 17 major engagements. I have seen the best pilots in the galaxy. What the humans did was not just evasive maneuvering. It was like they could predict where our weapons would fire before we fired them. You believe they have some form of precognitive ability? I believe they understand combat in a way that we do not. Zekthari returned to their seat. Every move they made served multiple purposes. When they dove under our formation, they forced 3 of our heavy cruisers to adjust position to maintain firing arcs. When they climbed above our line, they blocked the targeting solutions of our support vessels. It was not just random chaos, it was orchestrated chaos. Admiral Kreenox was quiet for several minutes processing the information. You mentioned in your preliminary report that the humans used their ships as weapons. Yes, sir. This was the part that still made Zekthari's blood run cold. When one of their smaller vessels took heavy damage and lost weapons capability, instead of retreating or surrendering, they accelerated directly toward our flagship. A ramming attack? More than that. They timed it perfectly. Our point defense systems were engaged with 2 other human ships at that exact moment. The damaged ship came in from an angle that put it in our sensor shadow. By the time we detected the approach, it was too late to stop. The impact destroyed your flagship? Zekthari shook their head. The impact crippled the shields and damaged the hull. But that was not the real attack. As the human ship hit us, it detonated its reactor core. The explosion took out not just our flagship, but 2 escort cruisers that were in formation nearby. Admiral Kreenox's mechanical eye stopped whirring. They deliberately sacrificed their ship and crew to destroy multiple targets? Without hesitation, without any attempt to save their people, they turned their own deaths into a weapon. Zekthari's voice dropped to a whisper, and they did it again. And again, every time one of their ships was critically damaged instead of attempting escape, they would find the optimal position to cause maximum damage with their death. That is, tactically effective but strategically wasteful. Ships and trained crews are valuable resources, not to humans, apparently. Zekthari pulled up the battle recordings on the room's display screen. Watch this. The holographic replay showed the final moments of another human vessel. Surrounded by coalition ships, engines failing, hull breached in multiple locations. Instead of surrendering, the human ship executed a complex spinning maneuver that brought it into contact with a coalition supply vessel. See how they calculate the approach? Zekthari pointed to the trajectory lines. They are not just committing suicide. They are solving a mathematical equation, how to position their dying ship to cause the most damage possible to our formation. Admiral Kreenox watched the replay 3 times before speaking. The crew was still alive during this maneuver? Yes, sir. Our sensors detected multiple life signs right up until the reactor detonation. And they made no attempt to abandon ship? None. In fact, our communications intercepted several transmissions from the human vessels during the battle. The crews were calm, professional. They discussed their suicide attacks like routine tactical decisions. The Admiral was quiet for a long time, staring at the frozen hologram. When he finally spoke, his voice was troubled. Intelligence Officer Zekthari, in your professional opinion, what kind of species treats their own lives as expendable weapons? Zekthari met the Admiral's gaze. A species that has been fighting wars for so long that death is just another tool in their arsenal. A species that understands violence in ways we cannot comprehend. Or, Admiral Kreenox said slowly, a species that knows something about this war that we do not. The 2 officers sat in silence contemplating the implications. Outside the window, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that somewhere among them, humanity was rewriting the rules of galactic warfare. There is one more thing, Admiral, Zekthari said finally. Yes? The last human ship to die transmitted a message before its reactor went critical. Just 4 words in perfect hegemony standard. What did they say? Zekthari's scales rippled with involuntary fear. They said, tell them we're coming. The xenobiology lab on Neutral Station Gamma 7 was quiet, except for the soft humming of analysis equipment. Dr. Chen had requested this meeting, claiming there were biological anomalies that Zekthari needed to understand. Now standing before a wall of medical displays, Zekthari began to realize just how little the Coalition knew about their enemies. These are scans from human crew members we recovered from the battle site, Dr. Chen explained, pulling up a series of detailed anatomical charts. What do you notice about their bone structure? Zekthari studied the images. The human skeleton looked fragile compared to their own thick armored scales, but there was something else. The bones are dense, much denser than our estimates suggested. 3 times denser than hegemony bone structure, Dr. Chen confirmed. And look at the muscle attachments here. He highlighted several areas on the display. Humans have redundant muscle groups throughout their bodies, systems designed to function even under extreme stress. But they look so weak, Zekthari said, confused. Your species appears physically inferior to most Coalition races. Dr. Chen smiled that unsettling predator smile again. Appearances can be deceiving. Tell me, what do you know about Earth? It is a standard Class M planet. Oxygen atmosphere, liquid water, moderate gravity. Moderate gravity? Dr. Chen interrupted. Zekthari, your homeworld has gravity approximately 60% of Earth's surface gravity. Most Coalition species evolved on worlds with similar gravitational fields. The implications hit Zekthari like a physical blow. You mean humans evolved under higher gravity? Much higher. Every human who fought in that battle was operating under gravity conditions that would crush most Coalition species. What you call impossible G-forces during combat maneuvers. Those were well within human tolerance levels. Dr. Chen pulled up more displays, these showing atmospheric composition data. Earth's atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. Most Coalition worlds maintain atmospheric oxygen levels between 8 and 12%. Humans literally breathe a gas mixture that would be toxic to your people. Zekthari stared at the data, pieces of a horrifying puzzle beginning to fall into place. What kind of world produces such creatures? A world that tried to kill them every single day for millions of years, Dr. Chen replied. Earth is not a peaceful garden world like most Coalition planets. It is what we call a death world, a planet where survival requires constant adaptation to extreme conditions. The doctor activated another holographic display, this one showing Earth's geographical features. Zekthari gasped. Massive storm systems raged across entire continents. Volcanic ranges stretched for thousands of kilometers. Polar ice caps advanced and retreated in cycles that would destroy any civilization not prepared for them. Your planet has active volcanoes? Zekthari asked, thousands of them, and earthquakes that can level entire cities, and hurricanes with wind speeds that exceed what most spacecraft can withstand, and floods, droughts, ice ages, asteroid impacts, and dozens of other natural disasters that occur regularly. How does anything survive in such conditions? By becoming stronger than the conditions, Dr. Chen said simply. Humans are persistence hunters, Zekthari. Do you know what that means? Zekthari shook their head. It means we evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, not ambush hunting like most predators, endurance hunting. We would follow prey animals for days, sometimes weeks, never letting them rest, never giving up until they literally died from being unable to escape us. The room felt suddenly cold. That is terrifying. It gets worse. Humans are one of the few species on Earth that hunts in coordinated groups while also being capable of individual persistence hunting. We can work together to surround prey, or we can pursue it alone across vast distances. We are adaptable in ways most predators are not. Dr. Chen pulled up genetic analysis charts. Human DNA shows evidence of interbreeding with at least 3 other human subspecies during our evolutionary development. We did not just compete with our environment, we competed with other versions of ourselves and won. Other versions? Other human species that were stronger, faster, or had larger brains than we did. All extinct now. We outcompeted them through superior endurance and pack hunting coordination. Dr. Chen's expression grew distant. Humans are not just predators, Zekthari. We are apex predators who eliminated all competing apex predators on our world. Zekthari felt sick. including other humans? When necessary. Human history is largely the story of different human groups fighting each other for resources. We have been at war in one form or another. For our entire recorded history, we have fought with sticks and stones, with swords and arrows, with chemical weapons and nuclear bombs. War is not something humans do. War is something humans are. The doctor activated a new display showing human military history. Thousands of years of conflict, innovation, and adaptation. Each war teaching new lessons, developing new tactics, creating deadlier weapons. This is why your tactics seemed impossible to us, Zekthari realized. You have been refining warfare for millennia. Every human child learns the lessons of 10,000 battlefields, Dr. Chen confirmed. We study the tactics of ancient generals alongside modern space combat theory. We analyze failures and successes going back thousands of years. When your fleet attacked us, you were not fighting against 12 ships. You were fighting against the accumulated military wisdom of human civilization. But the suicide attacks, Zekthari protested. Surely your people value their own lives. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. Humans have a concept called acceptable losses. We understand that victory sometimes requires sacrifice. But more than that, humans have another concept called greater good. The idea that individual survival matters less than the survival of the group. All species have group loyalty, not like humans do. Dr. Chen's voice was firm. Humans will sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts, freedom, justice, honor. We will die for ideas, not just for family or territory. The crews who rammed your ships did not see themselves as committing suicide. They saw themselves as protecting humanity. Zekthari stared at the displays, overwhelmed by the scope of what they were learning. How many humans are there? On Earth alone? About 12 billion. 12 billion? Zekthari's voice cracked. The Coalition intelligence estimates were 3 billion. The Coalition intelligence estimates were very wrong about many things. Dr. Chen began shutting down the displays. 12 billion humans all evolved on a death world, all trained from birth in the art of warfare, all willing to die for concepts your people have never even considered. And they are all like the crews that destroyed our fleet? No, Dr. Chen said, and his smile returned. The crews that destroyed your fleet were explorers and scientists. Earth's military forces are still on Earth. The words hit Zekthari like a physical blow. Scientists, the humans who had demonstrated impossible tactics, who had turned their own deaths into weapons, who had destroyed an entire coalition fleet with only 12 ships, they had been civilians. Dr. Chen, Zekthari said slowly, what would happen if Earth's actual military forces entered this war? The human doctor looked out the window at the stars for a long moment before answering. The coalition would discover that they are not fighting against a primitive species that recently achieved spaceflight. They would discover that they are fighting against the galaxy's ultimate predator species, one that has been preparing for this war for far longer than anyone realizes. How long? Since the moment humans first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Dr. Chen turned back to Zekthari. Every human dreams of exploring space, Zekthari. But every human also fears what we might find among the stars, so we prepare for both possibilities. Zekthari understood now why they had been allowed to survive, why they had been placed on this neutral station with a human doctor who knew far too much about Coalition intelligence estimates. The message was clear. The Coalition had not encountered a primitive species. They had awakened something that had been waiting for them, something that understood war better than any civilization in the galaxy. Something that had been born in violence, shaped by conflict, and refined by millions of years of survival on a world that demanded perfection or death. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered. Humanity was the thing that conquered other things, and now they knew the Coalition existed. The communication array on Neutral Station Gamma 7 was supposedly restricted to emergency use only. But when Zekthari accessed the Coalition intelligence networks 3 days later, they discovered something that made their blood run cold. The 12 human ships at Kepler 442 had not been a random patrol or exploration mission. They had been a test. This cannot be accurate, Zekthari muttered, staring at the intercepted communication logs displayed on their private terminal. The data streams were encrypted, but Coalition codebreakers had managed to decrypt fragments of human military communications from the battle. The fragments painted a picture that contradicted everything the Coalition believed. about human capabilities. References to target package Omega, discussions of acceptable parameter variations, status reports on something called Network Asset Beta 7. Zekthari cross-referenced the timestamps. These communications had occurred before the battle, not during it. The humans had been planning this engagement for months, possibly years. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Admiral Kreenox appeared on the communication screen, his mechanical eye glowing red with urgency. Intelligence Officer Zekthari, we have a problem. Coalition Command has intercepted human communications traffic across 17 different sectors. The transmissions are heavily encrypted, but our analysis indicates coordinated activity on a massive scale. What kind of coordinated activity, Admiral? Military mobilization, fleet movements, resource allocation. It appears that humans have been building up their forces for a significant operation. Zekthari felt a chill of recognition. Admiral, how long have these communications been active? That is the disturbing part. Our analysis suggests the network has been operational for at least 15 standard years. We only detected it now because the volume of traffic has increased dramatically in the past few weeks. 15 years. The humans had been planning this war since before first contact with the Coalition. Zekthari's claws clicked nervously against the terminal surface. Admiral, I need to show you something. I have been analyzing the battle communications from Kepler 442. Zekthari transmitted the decoded fragments to the Admiral's station. They watched as Kreenox's organic eye widened with each new piece of information. These reference numbers, the Admiral said slowly. They correspond to Coalition fleet positions, supply routes, and defensive installations. Yes, sir. The humans knew exactly where our forces would be positioned. They knew our response protocols. They knew our tactical doctrines. How is that possible? Our first contact with humans was only 3 years ago. Admiral, I believe our first contact with humans was not their first contact with us. The communication channel was quiet for several minutes, as both officers processed the implications. Finally, Admiral Kreenox spoke. Are you suggesting that humans have been infiltrating Coalition space for decades? I am suggesting that humans have been studying us much longer than we realized. Zekthari pulled up additional data files. Look at these trade records. Over the past 20 years, there have been irregular shipments to frontier worlds. Cargo manifests that do not quite match actual deliveries. Transport vessels with registration numbers that trace back to shell companies. Human intelligence operations. Human preparation for war. They have been mapping our territory, studying our weaknesses, building relationships with species that have grievances against the Coalition. Admiral Kreenox's mechanical implants hummed with increased processing activity. Which species? Zekthari had been dreading this question. The Faranathi rebellion that was suppressed 5 years ago? The cargo ships that supplied the rebels traced back to the same shell companies. The Kulvari independence movement? Same source. The mining strikes on Veltar Prime? Organized by labor leaders who had contact with mysterious off-world advisors. You are saying that humans have been fomenting rebellion across Coalition space. I am saying that humans have been building a network of allies among every species that has ever had a reason to resist Coalition rule. The Admiral was quiet again, processing the scope of what Zekthari was revealing. How many species are we talking about? Potentially dozens. Every minor species that was forcibly integrated into the Coalition. Every world that was stripped of resources for the greater good. Every population that was relocated to make room for Coalition expansion. Zekthari paused. Admiral, what if the Kepler 442 engagement was not about testing their military capabilities? What if it was a signal? A signal for what? For all those rebellious species to begin coordinated action against Coalition authority. As if summoned by their conversation, new alerts began appearing on both their screens. Reports of civil unrest on Kulvari Prime. Mining equipment sabotage on 3 different worlds. Communication disruptions across the Faranathi sector. It is starting, Zekthari whispered. Admiral Kreenox was accessing Coalition command frequencies, his expression growing more grim with each new report. Zekthari, we are receiving distress calls from 18 different systems. Coordinated attacks on Coalition infrastructure. Local security forces are reporting that the attacks are being led by well-equipped, well-trained forces using advanced tactics. Human tactics. The reports describe small unit operations with precision timing, advanced communication coordination, and weapons technology that exceeds local capabilities. The Admiral's voice was tense. This is not random rebellion. This is a planned military operation. Zekthari accessed the tactical analysis computers, overlaying the reported attack locations with known coalition strategic assets. The pattern that emerged was terrifying in its precision. Admiral, they are not attacking random targets. They are systematically destroying our ability to coordinate a response. Explain. Communication relays, supply depots, fleet maintenance facilities, recruitment centers. Every attack is designed to weaken our ability to mobilize forces or maintain existing deployments. Admiral Kreenox was accessing more data streams when new information appeared on his screen. His expression changed from concern to outright fear. Zekthari. Coalition intelligence has intercepted a human transmission. It was broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously across 17 sectors. What did it say? 3 words. Network phase activated. The communication channel fell silent as both officers realized the scope of what they were facing. The humans had not simply attacked a coalition fleet. They had triggered a galaxy-wide uprising that had been planned and prepared for decades. How many ships does Earth have? Admiral Kreenox asked quietly. Zekthari accessed the files Dr. Chen had shown them. Conservative estimates based on their industrial capacity suggest they could field several thousand vessels. Several thousand ships crewed by warriors trained on a death world, supported by rebellious coalition species who know our weaknesses and have been preparing for this war for 20 years. Admiral, there is something else. Zekthari hesitated, then continued. The human doctor here, Dr. Chen. He knows things about coalition operations that are classified above my security level. He knew details about the Kepler 442 fleet composition before I told him. He knew our estimated response time to the battle. You think he is intelligence? I think every human we have ever encountered has been intelligence. I think first contact was not a chance meeting between exploring species. I think it was a carefully planned introduction designed to gather information about coalition society and military capabilities. Admiral Kreenox was reviewing tactical reports when another alert appeared. This one was different. A priority message from Coalition High Command. Admiral Kreenox, you are ordered to return to Hegemony Prime immediately. All fleet commanders are being recalled for emergency strategic planning. What about Intelligence Officer Zekthari? Zekthari will remain on the neutral station pending psychological evaluation. After the Admiral signed off, Zekthari sat alone in the communication room, surrounded by the growing reports of coordinated attacks across Coalition space. Through the small window, the stars looked different now. Not empty space waiting to be explored, but a vast network of human agents and allied species, all working toward the same goal, the destruction of the Hegemony Coalition. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway, carrying another cup of that earth beverage. Rough day? Zekthari looked at the human doctor with new understanding. How long have you been on this station, Dr. Chen? About 5 years. I was part of the medical exchange program between Earth and the neutral zones. 5 years. Long enough to monitor coalition communication traffic. Long enough to identify which coalition officers might be useful sources of information. Dr. Chen's smile was patient and knowing. Long enough to be in position when a certain intelligence officer arrived with very important information about human military capabilities. You have been waiting for me. We have been waiting for someone like you, someone who survived the demonstration at Kepler 442, someone who could carry the message back to coalition leadership. Zekthari understood now. What message? That the war has already begun, and the coalition has already lost. The emergency session of the Coalition High Command took place in the most secure facility in Hegemony space, a massive space station hidden in the gravity well of a neutron star. Zekthari had been transported there under heavy guard, their testimony deemed too important for standard communication channels. The council chamber was enormous, with representatives from all major coalition species arranged in concentric circles around a central holographic display. At the center sat Supreme Chancellor Vorthok, an ancient being whose species had founded the coalition 3,000 years ago. Intelligence Officer Zekthari. The Chancellor's voice echoed through the chamber. You will now present your complete analysis of the human threat. Sekathari stood before the assembled leadership of the galaxy's most powerful military alliance. 300 species, thousands of worlds, fleets that had conquered entire star systems, and all of them waiting to hear about 12 human ships that had changed everything. Honorable Council, the threat we face is unlike anything in Coalition history. Humanity is not a primitive species that stumbled into galactic politics. They are a deliberately hidden apex predator species that has been preparing for galactic conquest for decades. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Chancellor Vorthak raised a hand for silence. Present your evidence. The central holographic display activated, showing the battle data from Kepler 442. But now, with weeks of analysis behind them, the true scope of human planning became clear. The human fleet knew our exact position 3 days before we arrived, Zekthari began. They knew our ship configurations, our tactical doctrines, and our response protocols. This was not a chance encounter. It was a carefully planned demonstration designed to test their weapons and tactics against live Coalition targets. Admiral Kreenox stepped forward. Council, we have since discovered that similar chance encounters have occurred across 17 different sectors over the past 2 years. In each case, small human forces engaged and destroyed much larger Coalition patrols. How is this possible? Demanded General Krekstar of the Veltar Defense Force. Our intelligence networks show no evidence of major human military buildup. Kring. Thari activated a new display showing the decoded human communications, because they have been building their forces in systems we do not monitor. Earth is not the only human world, Council. Our estimates suggest they have established colonies in at least 40 star systems, all hidden beyond our current survey range. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Chancellor Vorthak's expression darkened. 40 systems? Our intelligence indicated humans were confined to their home system. Our intelligence was deliberately deceived, Zekthari continued. Human first contact protocols were designed to present them as a single world species with limited technological capabilities. While we believed we were conducting standard diplomatic relations, they were mapping our territory and studying our weaknesses. Dr. Chen had provided Zekthari with additional data before their departure from the neutral station. Information that painted an even more terrifying picture of human capabilities. Council, human industrial capacity exceeds our most aggressive estimates. Each of their colony worlds has been developed specifically to support military production. Shipyards, weapons manufacturing, training facilities, entire star systems converted into war machines. How many ships? Chancellor Vorthak asked quietly. Conservative estimates suggest they can field 12,000 combat vessels within 6 months. Aggressive estimates suggest they already have that many ships built and waiting. The silence in the chamber was deafening. 12,000 ships crewed by humans trained on a death world, supported by decades of intelligence gathering and network building. Admiral Kreenox activated another display. Council, the coordinated rebellions across Coalition space are not random uprisings. They are synchronized military operations designed to cripple our ability to respond to the human threat. How synchronized? Asked Defense Minister Kulvex. Every attack occurred within a 4-hour window across 17 sectors. Communication relays, supply depots, fleet maintenance facilities, and recruitment centers were destroyed with surgical precision. This level of coordination requires years of planning and real-time command and control systems. Zekthari stepped forward again. Council, the humans have been building a galaxy-wide intelligence network for at least 20 years. Every minor species that has grievances against the Coalition has been contacted, organized, and equipped with advanced weapons. Chancellor Vorthak was accessing data streams from across Coalition space. The reports were getting worse by the hour. Current status of the rebellions? 73 worlds experiencing active resistance movements. 36 systems with confirmed communication disruptions. 12 major supply routes compromised. Admiral Kreenox paused. And it is accelerating. As if summoned by their words, new alerts began appearing on every display in the chamber. Emergency signals from Coalition fleets across the galaxy. What is happening? Chancellor Vorthak demanded. Admiral Kreenox was frantically accessing multiple communication channels. Human fleets are dropping out of hyperspace simultaneously across Coalition territory. Multiple contacts on all major systems. The central display changed to show a tactical map of Coalition space, Red indicators began appearing faster than the tracking systems could update them. Human ships, hundreds of them, emerging from hyperspace in perfect coordination. "This is impossible," General Krekstar said. "No species has the logistical capability to coordinate attacks across such distances." "Humans do," Zekthari said quietly. "Because they have been planning this war since before first contact. Every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange, all of it was intelligence gathering and network building." The red indicators on the display continued multiplying. Human fleets were not attacking randomly. They were striking at specific targets with devastating precision. "They are not trying to conquer territory," Admiral Kreenox realized. "They are destroying our ability to coordinate resistance." Chancellor Vorthak was receiving direct reports from fleet commanders across the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Korthan reports human forces using weapons technology decades in advance of our capabilities. Fleet Admiral Yevna reports human ships demonstrating maneuverability and speed that exceeds theoretical maximums. "Because they have been testing their technology against us for years," Zekthari said. "Every chance encounter was a live fire test of human weapons and tactics. They have been using coalition forces as training targets while we thought we were conducting routine patrols." More reports flooded in. Human forces were not just militarily superior. They were demonstrating complete knowledge of coalition defensive strategies, communication protocols, and command structures. "How do they know so much about our operations?" demanded Security Director Velkan. Dr. Chen's words echoed in Zekthari's memory. "Because every human we have ever met has been intelligence. Every trade mission, every diplomatic contact, every scientific exchange, all of it was espionage designed to prepare for this war." The tactical display now showed human forces emerging throughout coalition space. Not thousands of ships, tens of thousands. The conservative estimates had been wildly incorrect. "Council," Admiral Kreenox said, his voice strained, "we are receiving surrender requests from 18 different system commanders. They report being vastly outnumbered by forces using technology they cannot compete against." Chancellor Vorthak stood slowly, staring at the display that showed the systematic dismantling of the galaxy's most powerful military alliance. "How is this possible? We have ruled this galaxy for 3 millennia. No single species has ever challenged coalition authority." "Because no species like humanity has ever existed in this galaxy," Zekthari replied. "We evolved on garden worlds, Council. Peaceful planets where survival was achievable through cooperation and resource management. Humans evolved on a death world where survival required becoming the ultimate predator." "What do they want?" Chancellor Vorthak asked. Before anyone could answer, the main communication array activated. A human face appeared on the central display. Calm, professional, and utterly confident. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. I am transmitting on all coalition frequencies to offer terms for immediate cessation of hostilities." The chamber fell silent. Admiral Sarah Chen, the sister of Dr. Chen, Zekthari realized. The human doctor had been more than an intelligence agent. He had been the advance coordinator for this entire operation. "The Hegemony Coalition will immediately cease all military operations and withdraw all forces to your core systems. All occupied worlds will be granted immediate independence. All subjugated species will be released from coalition authority." "And if we refuse?" Chancellor Vorthak asked. Admiral Chen's expression did not change. "Then we will demonstrate why evolution on a death world creates superior warriors." "Your choice, Chancellor." The communication ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. On the tactical display, human forces continued appearing throughout coalition space. A coordinated operation of staggering scope and precision. "How many humans are participating in this operation?" Admiral Kreenox asked quietly. Zekthari accessed the final data.